Om Sadashivasamārambām Shankaracharya Madhyamām Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparām. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitartaya Tattva Bodho Bidhite. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome back. So we were on the topic of Sadhana Chatustaya. One second. We were on the topic of the Sadhana Chatustaya, and we did 3 out of the 4 Ds. The first, and I hope you remember what the 4 Ds were. It was Viveka, discrimination, Vairagyam, dispassion, Shatka Sampatti, discipline, the 6 disciplines, which she just finished. And the 4th D was desire for moksha, Mumumshutvam. And that's what we're going to do now. On your page 5, the 3rd set, I will chant and you can repeat. You can unmute yourselves. Mumumshutvam kim?
Mumumshutvam kim?
Moksho me bhuyad.
Moksho me bhuyad.
Iti ichcha.
Iti ichcha.
Etat sadhana chatushtayam.
Etat sadhana chatushtayam.
Tat sattva viveka.
Tat sattva viveka.
Atyadikarino bhavanti.
Adhikarino bhavanti.
Thank you. So, it's getting quite long. Moksha me bhuyad. Let me attain moksha. This is this ichcha, this intense desire to attain moksha. This is mumukshutvam. And one who has this intense desire is called a mumukshu. So we talked about the 4 goals or pursuits of human life, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And mumukshutvam refers to this 4th purushartha, which is the burning desire for moksha. There's a difference between, attending a Vedanta class because you have some curiosity about what it is, and actually having that desire for the ultimate goal. But what do you do to attain mumukshutvam frame of mind? There is really nothing you can do to attain this frame of mind because it comes naturally when viveka is complete, when you realize that everything that I'm seeking, we talked about how all the pursuits, all actions are driven by desire. And when we inquire into the nature of any of the desires, it ultimately boils down to a desire to be happy. And we said we are looking for permanent, lasting happiness. And when you realize that this permanent, lasting happiness cannot be achieved with impermanent things of the world, that's when Viveka is complete and the Mumumshutvam frame of mind naturally arises. This is also a desire, but it is that desire which will burn away all other desires. All other needs and wants will be burned away by this desire. And ultimately, even this desire has to be let go. And it will be let go when you realize that there is actually nothing to achieve. You were always Brahman. You are always Brahman. And there is, and all this study you're doing, all the Shravanam you're doing, Mananam you will do, then the Dhyasanam, all this was just a play. There was never anything to be achieved. So when you realize that I am free, I always was free, then even that desire is dropped. So it is a funny contradiction because a seeker can never be free. But it is only through seeking that you can achieve this goal. Oh, it's the funny contradiction of Vedanta. Contemplate on that for a minute. And because all these other desires that we have, why do we have these desires? We have these desires because there is a feeling of lack. Think of those moments when you're completely content and happy. We all have those moments, right? In those moments, do you want anything? You can't even think of wanting anything because there is no space. You're completely full with you feel this fullness. Shastra tells you that your very nature is fullness. But due to ignorance, you think that you're lacking of something. And you go about trying to fill this lack with things and people and relationships of the world, mistakenly looking for completeness, mistakenly looking for permanent happiness, when your nature itself is completeness and absolute bliss. So what if you say right now, I don't want moksha? You would say this, it's because you might not know the complete glory of moksha. To understand what the glory of moksha is, we talked about the 5 benefits in the first class: the jinyasa nivritti, vidyananda prapti, karpana nivritti, agata nivritti, and dakshata prapti. A satisfaction of curiosity about your true nature. Who am I? Who's God? What is the relationship between myself and God? Inner bliss, freedom from slavery or dependence on external things, immunity to problems which comes, immunity to any kind of situations which comes, complete efficiency in performance. If you want any of these things, or if you want these things even in some part, you basically want moksha. But being a mumukshu itself will come in its own time, and that's perfectly fine. For now, we have the desires we have. Go about pursuing those desires dharmically. Keep fueling your desire to know yourself, and it will come in its own time. And then we are ending this topic of Sadhana Chatustaya, the 4-fold qualifications for a seeker. It says Etat Sadhana Chatustayam, that just means this is sadhana, this is the 4-fold qualifications, and the students becomes eligible for Tattva Viveka. That is another name for Tattva Bodha, or self-knowledge. Adhikari Bhavanti. He becomes an Adhikari, eligible for this, acquiring this knowledge when he has these 4 Ds. So the author says these are the qualifications for self-knowledge, that if I have these 4 qualifications already, then when you listen to this teaching, you can directly acquire this self-knowledge and ignorance will be removed. But what if So we've all heard what the Sadhana Chatustaya are. You might feel that you have all these in some measure, but most likely none of us have any of these qualifications in full measure, right? So what does that mean? Is there any use of doing this Shravanam right now? Because the author is telling you this is the qualifications required. So how it works is when you have these qualifications in full, you are an adhikari, and the effect of this knowledge will be immediate. There are very few special beings who came to this birth with that kind of full qualifications. We've all heard the names. Adi Shankaracharya was one. They had that complete viveka, complete mumumshutvam from a very young age, and they just needed to spend a very, very short time with the teacher, very short time listening to the teaching, and that's it. They got it. For most of us, that won't be the case. We might likely have to go through many years of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. That is listening, contemplation, and meditation on the teaching. So till such time, even listening to the teaching is kind of a karma yoga for you. So this process of listening to the teaching will also aid your chitta shuddhi. This will aid getting you these qualifications. And when you finally have all these qualifications, that's when this becomes jnana yoga for you, path of knowledge. And that's when you will get the benefit, complete benefit, the final goal of the teaching. So how do you go about getting these fourfold qualifications? The author does not go into that in this text because he takes for granted that we're all already eligible students. Our Lord Krishna does not make any such assumptions, and in Bhagavad Gita, he talks in detail a lot about the various paths of yoga, the Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and he talks Karma Yoga, and he tells us how all these paths, which are actually, we call them paths, but actually you will also see in time how they're all actually only the same path. They can be different starting points, say, but they all merge together. So what is Karma Yoga? So Costa asked one of the questions that was asked. I replied that I will talk about Karma Yoga in the next class. We didn't get to it in the last class. We'll talk about it now. So Karma Yoga means, we will of course cover this in a lot of detail in Bhagavad Gita, but just to give you an overview, Karma Yoga means proper action. And karma actually means proper action, and yoga means proper attitude. What is proper action? So first of all, for something to be the right action, it means it should not be causing any harm, right? And higher the number of beneficiaries, higher the action is. So the beneficiary could be even me, myself. That is also fine. But in that process of benefiting myself, I should not be harming anyone else. If that is the case, that is also proper action. And if my action can benefit more and more people, that is a higher kind of action. And what is the proper attitude to have? This has two components. There is what we call Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, which means you surrender all your actions to the Lord. You realize that none of these actions belong to me. So maybe there is something you're able to do because of your intellect, because of maybe the education you receive, maybe the resources you have. But how did you get any of these things? Do these really belong to you? You were either born with some of them, or you acquired some of them because of situations which were possible to you to acquire these qualifications. So having a humble attitude that none of this really belongs to me. Hence, all actions that I do, I'm dedicating to the Lord. So it could just be a simple prayer saying, I'm dedicating this action of listening to the teaching, even to the Lord, right? And finally, when you dedicate to the Lord, whatever result comes back, you have Ishvara Prasada Buddhi. So we all know the term, especially at least in India, we all know the term prasad. What is that? It's meant you offer something. When you go to a temple, you offer some offering to the Lord. They place it there, they do a puja, and then they give it back to you. It's what you offered and it's coming back. It might have some few extra drops of holy water on top or something, and some special prayers done it, but it's your action which is coming back to you as prasad. And then you have it. So you never complain about the prasad being good or not good. This is not my favorite kind of prasad. I prefer this kind of prasad, hopefully, right? You just accept whatever prasad is given to you. So that's what we mean by Ishvara Prasada Buddhi. When, as a result of your action, a favorable outcome or an unfavorable outcome or a mixed outcome comes to you, you accept it. You say, this is the prasad from the Lord, and you accept whatever it was. So maybe when you were kids, your parents might have told you this, at least my parents did. I remember when I was upset, I didn't do well in a particular exam. My father was like, but did you work well? I said, yes. Okay, then you did all you could. That's it. So we add an additional element to that you give your best efforts because you're dedicating this action to the Lord. So of course, you will put your best efforts in it, and then you accept whatever result comes. So that's karma yoga. That's the proper definition of karma yoga. It's not this seva you perform in an ashram or something like that. It can be if you do it with that proper attitude. Any seva you do can be karma yoga. Making a cup of chai for your spouse can be karma yoga. Dropping your kids to school can be karma yoga. Whatever duty you perform as an employee in the office can be karma yoga. Right? The act of eating can be karma yoga. So that's karma yoga will be one of the main parts we will talk about in Bhagavad Gita. So that is the method, and what the problem it addresses is mala, impurity. This impurities in the mind will be addressed by doing karma yoga and thereby give you chitta shuddhi. So we have a couple of other problems. We have the problem of vikshepa, which is the scattered mind, this monkey mind, which keeps jumping from one place to the other. And the solution for this scattered mind is getting chitta ekagrata, the power of concentration. So the method prescribed for that is Raja Yoga, which is all this, the Ashtanga Yoga steps, all your nyamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, all these steps, this concentration, meditation, all these are part of Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga as well as Bhakti Yoga, devotion, chanting, prayers, all these can give you chitta ekagrata. And we have one more final problem, which is ajnanam, ignorance of my true nature. And this ignorance cannot be removed by any karma, because I'm not trying to achieve something which is not there. I'm just trying to know already what is there. So the only solution for that is jnanam. And the only way to achieve jnanam is shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam. So as I said, till such time Chitta Shuddhi is there, when you're doing this Shravanam, it will still act as Karma Yoga for you. And when Chitta Shuddhi is complete, it will act as Jnana Yoga for you, in the sense that you will get the ultimate goal of this teaching. Right? So if one doesn't have Chitta Shuddhi incomplete, which most of us don't, the way to achieve that is through Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. And this will then give you Jnana Yogyata, the eligibility to get Jnanam. And on having Jnana Yogyata, this listening will then become Jnana Yoga for you, and this Jnanam will give you moksha. So any questions in that? With that, we complete the topic of Sadhana Chatustaya, and just a very brief overview of the ways one goes about getting this Sadhana Chatustaya, which will be elaborated in great detail in Bhagavad Gita. And now after that we've concluded this topic of Sadhana Chatustaya, there are several terms we introduced in every class. I would encourage you to revise your notes, especially the terms I keep posting at the end of the class in our notes. These are the terms you should know well, because I will no longer say discernment. I will say viveka, because viveka we explored in a lot of detail. It means much more than the English term discernment. Viveka is the discernment between what is nityam, what is permanent, what is anityam. So when I say viveka, you should know what that is, and you should recall what it is. And I will no longer say dispassion. I will say vairagyam, and so on. Right? So over time, you can make your own glossary of Vedanta terms to refer back to. Most of this will come very automatically, but do refer to your notes once in a while. Now we'll be entering the second part of Tattva Bodha. Some of the juicy topics are starting now. We are going to enter the topic of Jiva. What is this microcosm that we see? And this is called Vyashti Vichara. Let's chant. In your book, it says chapter 2. You can unmute yourselves. Ata Vyashti Vicharaha. Tattva Viveka Kaha.
तत्व विवेकः कः
Atma Satyam.
आत्मा
आत्मा
सत्यम्
सत्य
Tadanyat Sarvam Mityeti.
तदन्यत्
तदन्यत्
सर्वं
सर्वं
मिथ्येति।
मिथ्येति.
Thank you. Wow. A small sentence, but powerful sentence. It's introduced us to so many terms that will become second nature to you. So this is the analysis. Vyashti Vichara is the analysis of the microcosm, the individual. Who am I? Right? And that is Tattva Viveka, which means discriminative knowledge of truth. Another phrase for Tattva Bodha. The teacher gives a very short answer. He says, Atma is Satyam, everything else is Mithya. This firm conviction is called Tattva Viveka. So this is Tattva Bodha, this firm conviction that Atma is Satyam and everything else is Mithya. So if this is your first time, none of those words might mean anything to you. We will talk about it in great detail through Tattva Bodha and through all the course of Vedanta that you do. This simple, profound sentence, if understood completely, that's it, you have self-knowledge. So there are 4 technical words, Vedanta, or let's say Vedanta specific words. introduced here, which are, I would say, impossible to translate into English. In the sense, I cannot translate it into English. I can't give you a one-word translation for English. So we will take our time explaining it well, and thereafter you will only use the Sanskrit term Atma. It's loosely said soul. That's not what it is. There is an Atma, which is what is not Atma, right? And there is Satyam, the truth. But what is that has to be explained, and Mithya, which exists only in Advaita Vedanta. No other philosophy gives you this concept of Mithya. You will find some people translating Mithya as unreal and Satyam as real. That's not, Satyam you can say real, but Mithya as unreal is not really true. Because we are not negating our experience of the world, right? So we are saying that it is a dependent reality. When you go about this world, you see, right now I'm seeing some beautiful mountains, blue sky, clouds in my view. You might be seeing people in your family, you have these relationships. We're not saying all this is unreal. They are all, your perception of all this is completely valid, and Advaita Vedanta accepts the perception of all this and the perception of reality of all this. It simply says that it's a dependent reality. So what does that mean? Classically, in Vedanta, we use this example of a clay pot. Unfortunately, today I don't have a clay pot. I often do. So let's take this glass and say we're looking at a clay pot. Atma Mitya. So when you have a clay pot, right, you can call it a pot, but where exactly is the pot? If you touch the pot, all you can actually feel is the clay, right? If you look at the pot, all you actually see is the clay. If I want to know what is the weight of the pot, the weight belongs to the clay. What is the pot? A potter could melt this pot and he could then make a plate out of it, or a spoon, or anything else. So where is the pot then, when it's been melted and made into something else? So the pot is simply the name and form given to the clay. A particular, we call it Nama Rupa. This name and form given to the particular functionality being performed by the clay in that particular form, right? So the name and form is Mithya. And the clay itself is Satyam. Of course, you have to understand I'm giving an example, and all examples have limitations. So in this limited example, the only permanent thing in this example is the clay. The clay existed before the pot came into existence. The clay is there during the existence of the pot, and even after the pot breaks or is melted down, the clay is still there. The clay itself is permanent. It is the essence of what we call the pot. So every individual, every jiva similarly, has an inner essence, which is immortal. It is imperishable. It cannot be destroyed. And this, unlike the clay, this immortal, imperishable essence is not visible to our ordinary eyes or to any other sense of perception, and hence it cannot be experienced. This inner essence is Atma. So you can remember it as the triple I. Immortal, invisible, inner essence. That is you. That is Atma. And this Atma and Anatma just means what is not Atma, right? So when we inquire into what exactly is the pot, we realize that there is no actual substance called the pot. There is no substantiality to pot itself. The only substance is the clay. The pot itself is a myth which exists in our mind because we don't inquire. We don't ask, what is this pot? So this pot is just a new name we've given to this clay, just like in this current body, I've been given a name called Spandana, right? So, but the Spandana is not me, it's something I may associate with. Hopefully after so many years of Vedanta, I don't, but it's just a name I might associate with. I might associate with the fact that, I'm a woman, I look a certain way, I'm brown, I have wavy hair, I I was born on this particular date, I am this old, whatever, but that is all. I'm just talking about the body and maybe the mind, right? Now, what was I when I think of myself as the little baby? The memories that I had as a baby, looking up at these adults or looking at my toys. I was, the small. And then as a toddler, when I was crawling around, and then as a teenager with, a certain kind of attitude and personality, and now as an adult, at some point associating as this high-powered career woman, all that, and now talking about Vedanta. So what is really common in all this? I can say that was me, that was me, that was me, which is true. That was all me. But was I that baby? Was I that toddler? Was I that teenager or this adult body? The body has completely changed over time, right? So this cannot be, the body cannot obviously be me. My thoughts have completely changed at each of those times. So those thoughts cannot be me. My intellect has changed over that time. So the intellect cannot be me. So what exactly is me? But I still say that was me. When I go to sleep every night and I create this whole dream world for myself, I walk around in this dream world. I might be playing with things. I might be suffering because of the situations. And in the dream world, I'm completely associated with that dream personality. But when I wake up and say, oh, that was just a dream, Vedanta is telling you this reality is also just another kind of dream, another kind of lower reality, which we perceive, and that perception is completely valid, but it's not the ultimate reality. So this is also a good point to introduce the concept of 3 levels of reality, which I will do shortly. I'm going to see Mahalakshmi's question because she has a bad throat. Taking the analogy further, does that mean my life itself is created by me, by my Atma, like the pot was created from the clay? In a way, yes. We will talk about, so keep that question alive and contemplate on it. We will talk more about creation, how we came to be, because but in very brief, if I am the only reality, everything which came must have come from me, right? So keep it alive, but we will talk about it more. So what is So that is Mithya. So this name and form. So in this case, Spandana, whatever it looks like right now, that is Mithya. But I have an inner essence, which is invisible, immortal, and that is Satyam. That is the permanent. So in our example, the pot is Mithya and the clay is the Satyam. That's they're synonymous with saying Atma and Anatma. They used to explain different concepts of it. So this body-mind is just Nama-rupa. Just like the non-substantial Nama-rupa can be many, anekam, but the substance can be only one, ekam. The clay is only one. That is one of the principles of this concept of Atma and Anatma. In Lord Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna likens this body to the clothes you wear. He asks, who are you grieving for, Arjuna? Because Arjuna is sad about all these people who are about to die. So he says, who are you grieving for? This body is just like the clothes you wear and discard at the end of the day, and the next day you wear new ones. Similarly, at the time of death, you discard this body, and in the next birth, you will take on a new one. We've all taken on countless such bodies, countless such possibly human forms, animal forms, and plant forms. We'll talk about reincarnation later, but we've taken countless such bodies. But you survived all this births. Your essence was always there. So the body is not you, even in this very lifetime. We talked about this example of how this body constantly changed. They say something, I don't know if I think it's not completely accurate, but they say all the cells in your body completely change in 7 years. I think in truth, there are some which don't, but it's almost true. So the actual structure of what makes this body completely changes. This body is just a costume, and you had multiple such costumes in various forms. They're all Nama-rupa. They are anekam, many. But you are Atma, are ekam, only one. That is the first principle. The second principle is this non-substantial Nama-rupa can never exist independently without the substance. The pot cannot exist without the clay. Yes, if you just had a lump of clay, you cannot drink water from it. You cannot store anything in it. The functionality comes from that, it taking on the shape of a pot, but the pot cannot exist without the clay. There is no substantiality to the pot. So that is the second principle. Clay alone exists by itself. Atma alone exists by itself. Clay or Atma has an independent existence, unborrowed existence. But you cannot perceive this clay, in clay you can perceive, but you cannot perceive Atma without this Nama-rupa, right? So take the example to take care of that limitation, we'll give you another example of electricity. So if you want to know if there is electricity in the house right now, you will go switch on a fan or a light, right? So that's how you know if there is electricity. You cannot, the electricity was there, was present, but I cannot perceive electricity by itself. I need some kind of reflecting medium to perceive that electricity. And that reflecting medium can be the fan or the light. So similarly, Atma is always there, but I cannot perceive it. So only when this body is there and it's alive, the mind and the body can act as a reflecting medium for us to perceive the Atma. The Atma still exists in a rock or a tree, but in a rock you cannot perceive the Atma because there is no reflecting medium for us to perceive the Atma there. So the second principle is this Mithya, this non-substantial Namarupa, the Atma, cannot exist independently without the substance, without the essence. It's only a dependent reality. So if you want to have a loose translation for Mithya, you can say dependent reality. That's much more accurate than saying unreal, because you perceive it, but it's a dependent reality, dependent on Atma. So what a dependent reality is Mithya, and what can exist by itself that has independent existence, unborrowed existence, is Satyam. So the pot does not have any shape without the clay, does not have any weight without the clay, no use without the clay. It cannot exist at all without the clay. So to explain this concept of this dependent reality, Vedanta gives you the term of Mithya. And the third principle is that the clay existed before, during, and after during all phases of the pot's life, right? Before pot was made, during its existence, and after it got destroyed. So the clay itself is Nityam. Atma itself is Nityam, eternal. And this body-mind complex, everything else that we perceive is anityam. It's not eternal. The body exists from the date of birth to date of death. It's anityam. You, however, are nityam. You are eternal. So we will explain more what that means. So another principle, the fourth principle, we can take as saguna versus nirguna. Guna means with qualities, and nirguna means without qualities or attributes. Mithya substances have attributes, and Satyam itself is attributeless. So in Vedanta, we give you the example of a crystal and a rose. If you take a crystal, what's the color of the crystal? It's kind of colorless, right? It's but if you put a rose behind the crystal, let's say, if you put a rose behind the crystal, the colorless crystal seems to have the color of pink, right? So, but the color itself belongs to the rose. It does not belong to the crystal. The crystal by itself was colorless, but we are imposing the pinkness or the redness of the rose on the crystal, and it appears red now. So that's an upadhi, a limiting adjunct. So if you just remove the rose, then there is again no color to that crystal. So whatever attributes we perceive is coming from the upadhi. So similarly, if I say I am brown, I am of a particular height, I have a certain kind of, I'm a humorous person or a serious person. All these attributes do not belong to me. They belong to the limiting adjunct, the upadhi of the body-mind, right? I myself, my inner essence, what I am is Atma, and that Atma is attributeless. I will pause and take some questions, though this is just an introduction to Atma and Anatma. And the rest of Vedanta study is understanding that and claiming yourself as Atma. Costa, you want to ask a question? Is it Mithyam? Yeah, you can. We say you can say Mithya, Satyam, right? Mithya is the dependent reality. Satyam is what exists by itself. Atma is Satyam. Anatma is Mithya. Nityam is correct. Nityam means eternal. Anityam in the prefix is used for negation for many words in Sanskrit. Anityam means not eternal, impermanent. Okay.
I have a question. Can you
Please
please
go ahead.
repeat when you mentioned that the inner essence of Atma has the three I attributes? I just got immortal.
Not attributes. You can think of it as the three I's, I said. The inner, immortal, invisible essence.
Thank you.
Not attributes. We just talked about how Atma is attributeless. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, Costa.
So we talked about the three levels of reality being dependent reality, independent reality.
No, I'm going to talk about the three levels of reality right now.
Okay.
Right. So instead of taking the next verse, I will take what is this three levels of reality. That doesn't come in the text itself, but it's a very important concept in Vedanta. So the three levels of reality are, so the lowest level is called, again, I'll put these terms up, Pratibhasika Satyam, or it's a relative level of reality, you can say. So say you're taking a walk with a friend, you both see a dog, and you love dogs, so you say, oh wow, what a beautiful dog, and you go pet the dog, play with the dog, and your friend is scared of dogs, so they see the dog and they'll be like, whoa, no, like don't call the dog, keep it away from me. They bite, so you're both seeing the same dog, same reality, but have completely different perceptions of that reality. Why? Because of your own inbuilt tendencies, your own vasanas, the filters of your likes and dislikes that you're observing this thing with. So that is the the right term could be subjective reality. This subjective reality where you're both seeing the same thing, but it means different things for different people. That is pratibhasika satyam. So it is something experienced only by you. That is your reality alone. All right. So someone might look at a flower and feel what a beautiful thing. Another person might look at the same flower and it reminds them of funerals, So that is your own reality. You're creating your own reality based on your likes and dislikes. All our dreams belong also to this level of reality. So you experience pain and pleasure in your dreams. You might even experience anger or love, or you can experience a lot of things in your dreams, but that it is all your reality alone. No one else, the person sleeping next to you, will not experience the same reality. So that is all pratibhasika satyam. That is the lowest level of reality. Then we have the higher level of reality is vyavaharika satyam, is the transactional level of reality. That is, pardon me, vyavaharika satyam, the transactional level of reality is what we all experience. It's our shared reality in a way. So if you're sitting where I am, you'll be able to see the same mountains I'm seeing, the same trees I'm seeing. I wish I could show it to you actually. So we'll all see the same thing. That is Vyavaharika. It's a reality we can all, which is shared. We all see this world, we all interact with the world. So we all agree that this earth is round, hopefully. There are some flat earthers out there, theorists out there, even today, I'm told. So that is all Vyavaharika Satyam, the transactional level of reality. Then there is a higher level of reality, the absolute level of reality, which is the Paramarthika Satyam. So the subjective, the transactional, and the absolute, Pratibhasika, Vyavaharika, and Paramarthikmata. So the absolute level of reality says Brahman alone is. And that is me. Only Brahman exists. That is the absolute level of reality. So that is understanding that everything I'm seeing is Brahman. I am Brahman. This process of seeing is Brahman. That is what we mean by Advaita, non-dual. This non-dual reality, that is Paramatmika. That is the absolute reality that we are trying to explore here and understand and accept. Right? So that's what, so it will take us a while to understand this Paramatmika Satyam, this absolute level of reality, but in short, that's what it is. There is this famous phrase you might hear many times in Vedanta, given by, of course, the great Adi Shankaracharya. He says, I will explain the whole of Vedanta in half a vakyam, in a half a phrase. He says, Jagan Mitya, it's Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mitya, Jivo Brahmeva Naparaha. So Brahman is Satyam. Brahman is the only reality. Jagat, Mithya. This Jagat, this world you see is Mithya. And Jivo Brahmeva Naparaha. You Jiva are nothing other than Brahman. That is the complete essence of Vedanta. So right now we're exploring the Jiva part, the Vyashti Vichara. What is this Jiva? Then it's because, why are we exploring it in this way? Because it's not that it's not like we have complete ignorance of who I am. We have certain conceptions about who I am, right? So first we have to explore all these conceptions, understand what is Jiva from all these conceptions, which is what the next part is about. And then we will explore what is Brahman. That is the Samashti Vichara. That is the next section of Tattva Bodha that we'll eventually come to. And when we say you Jiva are nothing other than Brahman, what do we mean by that? We will explore that too. And we will also explore what it means when we say Brahman is Satyam. Brahman is the only reality, which I very briefly told you about in this class. And Jagat is Mithya. This world I see is a dependent reality. It is not unreal, but it is. It doesn't, it cannot stand on its own. It's dependent on something else. It's dependent on me. So when you understand this term, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So when I say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, it belongs to which level of reality? And one of the older students tell me perhaps. I think Mahalakshmi wants to say, but her throat is bad. It belongs to, yes, Sujit, you want to say?
Absolutely, LT ma'am.
No, it belongs to Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya belongs to the Vyavaharika. Because we are saying Brahman is Satyam, but Jagat is Mithya. There is still duality there. So it belongs to Vyavaharika. So this whole process of teaching, me playing the teacher, you playing the student, you listening to me, this all is the world of reality. This is all the world of duality. If there was no duality, we would not be able to have this conversation. So this is all Vyavaharika. But this is the only methodology available to us to teach. That's why we use it. So at this point, you have to understand everything that we talk about in Vedanta, we're going to talk about from initially from the point of view of Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. But from there, we will come to the point where we can say Sarvam Brahman. Actually, we won't be able to say it because then saying anything requires duality, right? When we can realize that Brahman alone is, I am that Brahman, that is Paramatmika Satyam. But to transmit this knowledge, we need words. So we use all these words. So others can unmute and ask themselves. Some people who have throat issues are pinging here, but it's...
I think I can do it.
Yeah. No, Mahalakshmi, your questions I'm reading. So you can only experience the 3 level. Yeah. I'm not sure I understood that question. Sorry. If you can type more in the meantime. Costa, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, so I guess what you're suggesting is that to be able to understand the non-duality, we have to play in this duality.
Yes. That. Yeah, another funny contradiction.
Yeah. And is that like what you just said? I come across this phrase some years ago where it was, I am that I am, the universe experiencing itself.
Yeah. I don't know who that quote is from, but that sounds quite Advaitic. I mean, there's some poetic license to a lot of statements like that, of course, right? I am experiencing myself. If there is no duality, how can I experience? To experience, there needs to again be duality, which is why even when we talk about these states like samadhi, Sankhya philosophy will call that the ultimate realization. But that's not in Advaita. While we say it's a useful experience to have, it is an experience. So that is not it. That is not moksha. That will not liberate you. So Advaita wants you to drop the notion that any experience can liberate you. You cannot experience yourself. If you're waiting for an experience of Brahman, you will be disappointed. Moksha is realizing that every experience is an experience of Brahman. Looking at that gray wall behind me is an experience of Brahman. Waking up in the morning is an experience of Brahman. Everything is an experience of Brahman. You're able to have this darshana. You don't need to go into any huge transcendental states to get an experience of Brahman, of yourself. You're experiencing it in every moment. The fact that you're able to experience at all is Brahman. So, and the fact you have to realize that I am this Brahman and I always was. And Shastra Pramanam is the only way we can get this knowledge. Right. And we use so sometimes Vedanta is criticized that saying it's too intellectual, all this going through the texts and going through the Sanskrit. It's too much of an intellectual exercise. But it is an intellectual problem. There is no other, I am already Brahman. There is no problem at all. I have nothing to achieve. It's just that I have some ignorance which makes me think I am not. So the ignorance exists where? It exists in the intellect. It exists in the mind. And so it is an intellectual problem I have. So I'm trying to solve that intellectual problem. The mind will be the instrument which will be used to negate itself. I'll let you all contemplate on that. So we're at the end of the time for the class, and we will be delving into what is Atma in the next class.
Ma'am, would you be able to just repeat the shloka? Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahme.
Jivo Brahmeva Naparaha.
Thank you so much.
And Mahalakshmi asks, does that mean the third level of reality can only be experienced? So you can experience, I don't know which one you mean by the third level, but you can experience, of course, we all experience Pratibhasika Satyam. It is also possible, we all experience Vyavaharika. And so when we say we both look at the same thing, but we filter it through our likes and dislikes. That's what makes it Pratibhasika. But as you develop your discernment, it's possible to experience it as Vyavaharika, right? Like, so the Ishvara Shrishti, the world created by the Lord has no suffering at all. It is only this Jiva Shrishti, the creation made through the filters of our likes and dislikes, which has suffering. How do we know this? Because Jivan Muktas, liberated beings, live in this very same world that we do, and they do not experience any suffering at all. Right? So it is our likes and dislikes which turns this Ishvara Shrishti, this creation of the Lord, into Jiva Shrishti, this samsara. So Pratibhasika and Vyavaharika, we can experience. The Paramatmika, you can never experience. You can know. So I will let you contemplate on all that. You can maybe listen to the recording once more. And please do contemplate it on the week, through the week. So this learning is not to be just listened to. Nothing will happen in that. You have to now do the mananam process. You have to think of what I said, see if how much of it your intellect can accept, what questions your intellect is coming up with, which you're welcome to put on the group or ask me in the next class. So, closing prayers. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Om Tat Sat. So